Yeah. Look, there's plenty of questions around this. This one, though, from Scott in Berlin is one that I was going to ask you myself, Keith. He says, this could save Clement's job. So the question is, and I get him putting you in the spot a bit here, but where does this leave Philippe Clement and Patrick Stewart was talking today?
In the big picture, I don't think Philippe Clement, I think Philippe Clement, with all due respect, is a bit of an afterthought here. I think if Walt was talking about the potential here for regime change and a takeover, and a swapping of a transfer of the boardroom power, then Philippe Clement's pretty low down the to-do list. I think this is fundamental change. Patrick Stewart did an interview today. Funnily enough, he was meant to be communicating with fans. He's omitted the fact that there's a potential American takeover on the cards. These things happen, he's forgetful. There's a lot to remember.
I knew there was something I should mention.
Yeah, I was meant to go to the shops, wasn't I? So that's an awkward one as well for Patrick Stewart. You would think that Rangers will have to make an announcement of sorts, and very, very shortly now that we've broken this news. But during the interview, Patrick Stewart was talking about Clement and saying, well, you know, what's the point in fixing the roof when it's the foundations that are eroding here? And I get that. Mm-hmm. I would have come back to, and as I said previously, well, that's fine, but first and foremost to the supporters, to the ones that are bankrolling the whole thing, results are the priority, and the results are not good enough. And the Queen's Park, Scottish Cup defeat was an absolute calamity. But, and maybe this is where I'll give Patrick Stewart his due, maybe this explains what was previously inexplicable. Maybe when we're sitting in here going, how did Philippe Clement survive that? Where has Patrick Stewart gone? Mm-hmm. Well, if Patrick Stewart knew that this was bubbling under and that there's the potential here for fundamental change, then I would agree that what happens with Philippe Clement can be pushed onto the back burner. This is far bigger. Mm-hmm. These are the big fish to fry, and Philippe Clement, in relative terms, is a bit of a tiddler.
Well, I mean, Craig Ferguson writes in saying that Patrick Stewart needs to confirm if he knew about this prior to the release today.
I'd be very surprised if Patrick Stewart didn't know about this.
Aye, exactly. Look, the other thing that I want to, and this might shock everyone at home, but neither you or I are financial experts, but we've got a lot of people writing in.
John, my wife will certainly testify.
John says, what about financial fair play and profit sustainability regulation, guys? A big fly in the ointment. And William Sloan, assuming this is real, do FFP rules allow for money just to be given? Doesn't have to be generated by the club itself?
Listen, I'm not going to dig into that. What I do know is that the 49ers are fairly serious people in the global sporting market. That, look, the Saudis bought Newcastle, the wealthiest owners anywhere in football, and Newcastle haven't been able to benefit from that because they can't go and just splash the cash willy-nilly. There'll be something similar. And also, if you look at what they've done at Leeds, they've not gone in there and spent absolute millions and gone crazy on it. It's strategic stuff. It's money better spent, and it is resources that Rangers don't have right now. Look, there will be certain kind of rules and regulations which need to be adhered to, but you're not talking about some Cowboys here.
Aye.
Well, that'd be the Dallas Cowboys, wouldn't it? That's the wrong franchise. These people are smart thinkers, and as I'm saying, this isn't something that's been rushed through in the last few days. This has been worked upon behind the scenes for a period of weeks, extending into months, and you would expect, the way that Americans are with stuff like this, the lawyers will be all over it.
Yeah.
And that's why, without that, you don't get to the point where I can say these talks are at an advanced stage.
Yeah. And I would make...
This is the opposite of being the advanced stage is the opposite of what it would be if it was just something that somebody thought of yesterday afternoon.
Yeah. And I would make the point as well, just going back to the FFP stuff. Look, no one's sitting here saying, they're going to 100 million in the next transfer window or something like that. But look, I don't think you can emphasise it enough. Rangers at the minute, I mean, they've got no money. Look at the January transfer window.
I think the numbers involved, now, I don't know, we're speculating here, but I don't think anybody's suggesting for a single second that somebody's going to roll into town and say, there's £100 million, go and have fun with the transfer. It'll not work like that.
Aye. But what I'm saying is Rangers right now need all the help they can get, is what I'm saying. Even if it's limited.
They are, having to scrimp and scrape and kind of rummage around the bargain barrel just now, haven't they? I don't think that would necessarily be the case if this deal gets pulled off.
Aye.
And by the way, I say if, I am pretty confident that it's more likelihood of going through than not. And I say that because I keep coming back to it. I believe that this is all fairly advanced.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can get to that stage without there being a willingness to strike some sort of agreement on all sides.
Very interesting indeed.
It is complicated.
Yeah.
And it'll be a really complicated deal because when they took over at Leeds United, they had basically one guy that was the major shareholder and he owned just about all of it. The Rangers, kind of the configuration of major shareholders means that this will be really complicated, complex, because there's not one guy to have to deal with. I think Dave King owns around 13%, Douglas Park 12%, George Taylor holds just over 10%, Stuart Gibson's not far behind that, John Bennett and around 7%. Then you've got directors Julian Walthart and John Halstead share a combined stake of just over 12%. Now this was a deliberate configuration because they wanted to make sure it was never going to again be in a position where one guy could dictate one guy. But in actual fact, in the reality of that, I could understand the thinking behind it. The reality has been a hodgepodge of egos and ideas and different directions and big ego, as I said, big egos. It's led to arguments, it's led to friction, it's led to fractures. There are people who originally were part of this whole thing who now can't speak to one another on a personal level, never mind a professional level. It hasn't worked. And I don't know. You will need to see, as I said, is it similar to what happened at Leeds? That Parag Marath went in and it was originally 15 and they scaled it up to 44 and it was all gradually built up, or is this something different? It remains to be seen. As I said, it's breaking, it's early days in terms of getting this information out here. We can only tell you what we know and the rest will probably be a bit speculative, but the meat and bones of what we're saying here I know to be correct.
Yeah. As you can probably imagine, there's a lot of scepticism from Celtic fans.
I thought there might.
Marzuno saying, I'm getting deja vu here. Another American billionaire saviour. And Paul says, here we go again. A big sugar daddy. Can't wait to invest all their money in a busted flush. Actually, that kind of ties in with what I finally wanted to ask you about this is, just from your point of view, getting a story like this, working on a story like this, how long does it take? How much work do you need to put in before you are 100% sure you can come to the table like you are right now and going, this is the story?
Yeah, listen,
it takes a while.
Aye, and even then you doubt yourself and but this is the process of information gathering isn't necessarily an easy one, and it takes a bit of ducking and diving and relying on information and stuff. But as I said, this originally started to leak out from down south. It takes 2 or 3 days of pretty serious work to try and solidify it and get it to the point that you're happy to go to print with it. That's where I am just now. I know there'll be scepticism. I realise that because there will be an element of this that some Rangers fans might think it's too good to be true. Some Celtic fans will think, come on.
No chance there.
But let's see what the next few days brings.